from a search engine, we have transitioned to an answer engine, because the goal of the end user is not to find blue links, but it's to find the answer to the question that you asked. Right?
Given that this year is being touted as the year of AI agents, I'm glad we have Vignesh to talk about the rise of autonomous agents and how they are redefining industries and the human AI interactions. Hello everybody, this is Geetika from Nanobits, and today we have with us the co-founder of Hexo.ai, Vignesh Baskaran. Vignesh, you're very welcome to our podcast.
Hey, thank you very much.
We have known each other for some time now, and I am super excited to talk to you today. I would also like to specially mention this for our viewers that Vignesh is one of the kindest and the most approachable people I have come across. He's always ready to help the community, and he makes sure that he goes out of his way to share his knowledge. Given that this year is being touted as the year of AI agents, I'm glad we have Vignesh to talk about the rise of autonomous agents and how they are redefining industries and the human AI interactions. So, without further ado, let's start from how it all started. So, Vignesh, walk us a little through what inspired you to begin Hexo and how has your journey been so far for the last almost 2 years now?
Yeah, sure. Hey, first of all, thanks a lot for having me. Right? I think most startup gurus say that, hey, don't build a startup unless you have a burning problem that you would like to solve, and you see nobody solving, and you care about it way too much that you are like, okay, I'm gonna give away my six-figure job and go ahead and try to start one. Right? It's exactly the opposite. I used to work at a startup and it got acquired. I was an employee. I was one of the first few employees. I was a principal scientist. I was the first data scientist of that company. It's a vertical search engine. I was building AI back then when AI wasn't that cool. It was since 2014 or something like that. It got acquired, and then I got introduced to this world of when the acquisition happened. That's when my ex-boss, the CEO of the company, right? He came and approached me that. So there were few founders for the earlier company. One of the founders is the current Prime Minister of Belgium. So it was a powerful founding team. And one of the founders approached me asking, hey, why don't we build something? I was like, hey, this is actually cool. I knew him for 5 years, so I was like, okay, let's start building together. I never had an idea of building a startup. I did not even know it. Then I started working with him. After 1 year, it didn't work out between us. What kind of founder am I if I just give up because I had one big blow? Let me probably try to do it by myself, right? Then for the next 1.5 years, I decided I'm going to figure out how to build a startup. My first objective was, I had a couple of things in my bucket list. The first thing is I wanted to compete on Kaggle and make it to the top. So Kaggle is a competitive machine learning platform. It was my dream constantly that I should compete on Kaggle and get to probably the top 10% or something like that. And then build an open source repository, and then find a co-founder, and then build a startup. So these were some of the things that I wanted to do after the exit of my previous startup. I made some cash, so I had a runway for 2 to 3 years. When we started Hexo, we did not have any idea or anything. We were not solving a problem statement or whatever it is. We did not have anything at all. It was a very, very inorganic way by which we started the company. No problem statement. Did not know the co-founder at all. We knew each other for 3 months, and then we decided to pitch together and something like that, right? So it was all very, very inorganic. The fund surprisingly made a very interesting decision. They were like, hey, you guys don't fit into any of the buckets. You don't check any of the check marks of having the right problem statement, being obsessed over it, or having a solution, nothing. But We like you guys, and we feel that you have an extraordinary chemistry, which we did have, and which we still have. So they invested in us. So they invested a small amount of money into us, and then from there on, it started, right? We have pivoted 9 times. So we have built 9 products, took it to the market, shelved it, and right now we are sticking on to the last one for more than 6 months. So, so I think right now we have got that conviction and we are sticking on to it. But that's our that's how that's how Hexo got formed. Yeah.
Vignesh, this is a very interesting founder journey. You've broken all common notions of how founders start. So I'm sure a lot of people who are always thinking of certain standards of starting a company would find some valuable insights from what you've shared, and just believe that it's important to believe in yourself and then just go ahead and get started. Universe will make things happen for you if they are meant to. So thank you for sharing that journey. It's quite interesting. Let's also get into a little bit about the building, and we all understand, as I was talking about, that this year is being touted as the year of AI agents. You also talk a lot about autonomous agents changing the world. Could you, for our listeners, just paint a picture what the future looks like with these agents?
Yeah. So the first thing is, a lot of material that you see on LinkedIn, predominantly from all these influencers, is marketing material. Okay. Would autonomous agents change the world? I think yes. But is it in that direction? Yes. Has there been a major change yet? I don't think so. So let's set that aside. Let's first think about what are autonomous agents, right? LLMs are just neural networks. They're just like any other machine learning model, which will take a bunch of input words, which we call it as tokens, and it will output words, again tokens. So these are just good at taking tokens as input and tokens as output. It's no more than autocompletion that is present on your WhatsApp keyboard while you type, right? It's no different from what you see on your WhatsApp keyboard. So they have always existed. Language models have always existed. They were very small networks, and suddenly when you increase the size of the network, right, they become large language models, and they are pretty amazing at doing much better than they are extremely good at doing next word prediction. That was the benefit that we got out of large language models. Then what are these agents? Is the question that arises to our mind. Why agents suddenly, right? The first thing is, an agent is fundamentally still an LLM, into which you can feed into a bunch of tokens, which will again spit out a bunch of tokens. That's it. So architecture-wise or mathematically, it's the same concept. There's nothing different at all. Tokens in, tokens out. That's it. But people understood that there are a couple of interesting things that you can do with LLMs. The first thing is, you would have seen that in ChatGPT, you can go and say that, hey, read this image. You can upload an image to ChatGPT and then tell it, hey, tell me what is the content that is present in this image. It will tell you something. If you uploaded a picture of sunflower, it will say, hey, let's say it says it's sunflower. Good. And then you upload a picture of a honeybee. It says, hey, this looks like a cockroach. You can prompt back into it saying that, hey, can you recheck your work? When you say, can you recheck your work, it goes ahead and sees it all over again. And then it says that, hey, I actually misunderstood. It's not actually cockroach. It's actually a honeybee. This is a very interesting insight that came out of LLMs that, hey, if you are able to prompt it back and give it is able to go ahead and fix its own mistake. How did this happen is the question, right? How did this happen is because all these large language models were trained on input and output, input and output. Humans wrote input and they saw the output and then they gave it back feedback and then they gave it back. So it's basically a pair of conversation that is happening between an LLM and a human being. So whenever the LLM made a mistake, the natural instinct of a human being is to just say that, hey, you're wrong. Then the LLM went ahead and fixed its mistake. Now, why do we need a human to emit tokens into an LLM? Instead, why don't we use another LLM which will speak to so let's say there are LLM A and LLM B. So LLM A says something, LLM B reads it and then spits out some output which gets fed into LLM A. So you establish a chain of conversation between LLM A and LLM B, right? Now, interestingly, why do you even need another LLM to give it an output? Why don't we use the same LLM to speak it to itself? Whatever it outputted, let's feed it back inside it as well, right? So basically, what changes? Now this gets into a cycle that it is able to go ahead and perform tasks by itself. It will do a closed loop. You ask it a question, it generates some output, it evaluates its own output, corrects its own output, and then regenerates it. This becomes a feedback loop, right? This feedback loop is pretty interesting. Now, which means and in addition to that, you also tell that, hey, there are these APIs or tools which are present out there. And you'll be able to call these tools as well. How can you call these tools? You just generate tokens. An API is basically a program, right? You basically generate tokens, which is going to be a program, which is code, which can call a tool such as a calculator or something like that and get back a response. And this ended up becoming extremely powerful way of doing things. So the two things that changed was an LLM is able to feed back input within itself, which means it's basically prompt engineering. It's able to so you change the prompt in a way that it will feed back itself, and then it is able to access external tools. Now, given that this evolution has happened, a lot of things that we do are routine, mundane tasks, right? Now, with an agent, what it will be able to do is, if you give it a goal, so you just have to specify a goal. Hey, my end goal is to understand what will be the temperature in my city in the next 2 days, right? You ask this question. The LLM will be able to read this question, and then it will be like, hey, in order to identify what is the temperature in the next 2 days in the city that Vignesh is present, I need access to Vignesh's current location, which means I have to call a GPS engine, a GPS tool. And then I have to access the current time, date, and I have to get that information. And then I have to use a calculator tool to count the plus 2 days. And then I have to use all these information, the time information, the city location information, and then call a weather station, a weather API, ask this information and get back from it. I'll be able to do all these things. So initially you had to build each of these building blocks, and you had to say that you could have only single flow. But right now it is smart enough, like, hey, I might need a calculator sometimes, so I will use a calculator. I might have to call the weather app sometimes, so I will call the weather app sometimes. So it will make its own decision about when should I call what, because it has the ability to see its own output and then feed it back as input and then correct it, right? Which means a lot of tasks that we do which involved sequence of steps and which involved detailed intelligence can now be on autopilot mode with an LLM. And the more that we use these systems, we are able to actually understand that, hey, a lot of work that we do can be automated this way. So Yeah, Geetika, this is
This is one of the
an
most
autonomous agent.
beautiful explanations I have ever listened to so far about AI agents. So, thank you for explaining it in
Hey,
such layman terms for a lot of
thank
people
you.
who are still confused about what AI agents is. So, thank you for sharing that. And just like, as a follow up to this, Vignesh, would also want to understand like, so what is the unique value proposition that these custom autonomous agents are offering, which is like, I know you've explained that there is this sequence of steps that can be solved, but why exactly can general purpose AI models not solve those?
Okay, Geetika, have you ever tried Perplexity?
I have.
Okay. Have you tried the pro version?
I have not.
Oh, okay,
Yeah.
okay, okay. So let's think about this, right? Okay, so I'm on Google search, okay? So let me ask a question, okay? Where did Prime Minister Modi contest in 2024 elections, and how many votes did he win in compare did he win and how many votes did his opponent win, right? So this is a very complicated question, correct? So if you have a question like this, right, a very complicated question, hit Google search. Let's see what Google says. It gives you a bunch of links, right? Now I will have to manually open one of the links, read through the content of that link, and try to get this information by doing Control F or whatever it is, right? On the other hand, if I ask Perplexity the same question, right? Where did PM Modi contest in 2021 and how many votes did he win? Now you see what is actually happening is it understood my question and it searched the web. Let's look at the steps. It searched the web. PM Modi constituency 2024 election. It searched for all these keywords. It found 16 sources. It understood that information. And then it says that Prime Minister Modi contested the 2024 Lok Sabha election from Varanasi. He won the seat for a third time, defeating his nearest rival Ajay Rai by a margin of over 1.5 lakh votes. Which means basically what it did was it understood my question and created multiple sub-queries, got multiple sources as information, okay? Multiple sources of information, read through all these sources of information, consolidated them into one single response, and then re-asked the same question that I asked to multiple consolidated sources, and then got this answer, right? So what is happening is typically in the olden days you could ask a question, or even today you can ask something like PM Modi constituency in 2024. This is the search keyword that you can ask, and Google will give you a bunch of links together. You will have to open a link and go ahead and read it, right? Whereas right now, this whole process of simulating your own search and getting the results and then consolidating them and getting the final answer is possible. Which means from a search engine, we have transitioned to an answer engine, because the goal of the end user is not to find blue links, but it's to find the answer to the question that you asked, right? Every query in the internet that you ask has different things that has to be done. For certain queries, where was Prime Minister Modi born? Then it's just a matter of going to a database of the world leaders and then reviewing. Whereas what happened with his 2024 elections, it's a much more complicated query which involves multiple steps to be executed. With an agent, the possibility is you don't have to have a single user experience designed. The experience of a user could be customized as per their query, which means Perplexity will look different to you versus to me based on the question that you ask and the question that I ask, right? So this is what is possible with agents. When you have a single flow designed, all of us will be treated the same way. Like back in those days, we had to go to the movie hall, and there were 8 movies that were being screened, and we have to pick one that we wanted. And then personalization started, where you log into Netflix and you see the same titles. All of us see the same. Then when personalization kicked in, you see different titles and I see different titles. So such a transition is happening with agents that, hey, everything is personalized. A task can be personalized and an interface can be personalized, or whatever it is, right? So when you have rigid set of rules, you cannot personalize it. But when you have rules that can be generated on fly, which can adapt to a user's request, then you'll be able to personalize it to a greater extent. So this is the power of an autonomous agent, Geetika.
Wonderful. Thank you for explaining it with that example. It's so easy to understand. I have used Perplexity, but yeah, I don't use it that often, even though I've heard from the community that it's the next big thing that people are going to get onboarded onto. So I'm
Yeah.
definitely going to try it out.
Yeah,
Um,
I genuinely wish Arvind could have built it from India, but yeah.
yeah. Yeah, no, but we are very happy to have Arvind lead this charter, and we are all very proud of him.
Yeah.
Switching gears a little bit, but obviously staying in the context of what we're talking about, I'm very happy, but at the same time, still worried because ethical considerations are still not being talked about as much, even though there is now a lot of conversation that's happening. So tell me, like with these autonomous agents becoming more sophisticated and increasingly getting integrated into the business operations, what are some of the key considerations that companies need to prioritize when they are adopting and deploying these agents for specific use cases? Also, if you want to just mention how Hexo is, addressing some of these challenges.
Yeah. So ethics is a very, very hard topic, Geetika. Right? And people who are building these engines are excited about the possibility of these engines, that it's hard for them to simultaneously think about ethics and take that into account and build as well. Right? So the first thing is, I don't have a concrete answer to your question, but I'm going to respond back to you with 2 sub questions that we have to first address when it comes to ethics. The first one is, hey, is this the time right now to discuss about AI safety and ethics? It's the first question that I want to address. It's because, are we still in 1900s where we still have Wright brothers inventing the aircraft and it's still fragile, it's still broken? It works somewhat, but it's not yet ready for commercial carrier flights. Are we in that scenario, or are we in that technical abilities to transport thousands of people from one location to another location? So first, timing is something that we have to address. And the second thing is, if at all we are still in a very, very nascent stage of broken prototypes, very, very fragile, which can break at any point in time, then does it even make sense to discuss ethics, given that we don't know what is the full capacity of these models yet? Have we already unleashed and understood in depth about what are all the possible things that we could do with these models and what are all the consequences that could happen with these models? I'm not sure. If we believe that, hey, we have already untapped everything and we know what is the maximum capacity of these models, then it makes sense to discuss. Because when you don't even know the risks are directly proportional to or directly related to the capabilities, right? Okay, let's put it this way. You'll be able to bring up ethics and guardrails only when you know the risks in detail. And you will know the risks only when you have a system which is unleashed and you know that you understand the full capacity of the system. And the system has attained its peak capacity. Before that, if we discuss about these topics of ethics, right, then it's going to be exceptionally difficult for us to we are basically hypothesizing. I don't know, and I don't know how fruitful is this hypothesis going to be as well. That's the first thing. What happens if we never attain AGI at all? Is this pointless discussion? First, and then the second thing is, by putting a leash right now itself, are we restricting the ability of these systems? Are we restricting ourselves from attaining that superhuman intelligence? Is another question that we should address. These are the two perspectives that I have with respect to ethics in AI, right?
No, thank you for sharing. So Vignesh, like in my opinion, firstly, like the analogy that you drew from like a human to what is happening with these in the space of AI is completely relatable. What I also feel is when we were trying to compare it with some of the other technological advancements that have happened in the past, where we have let technology take shape and then obviously discuss about safety, ethics, and various other considerations. This time it seems very different because the commercial use of AI as a technology has taken a very rapid advancements. So we are still trying to do a lot of catch up in terms of what is ethical, what is responsible, how do we ensure the privacy. All of that is right now very much up in the air. It's very open ended, and that is what I think a lot of companies, a lot of users are finding as a hesitation in terms of adoption. And it is, I believe, important for companies that are developing in the space of AI to be able to, at least from their own point of view, address those. And I also completely agree with you. A lot of moral ground needs to be set by the companies themselves. Let's talk about or address the elephant in this podcast room.
Okay.
How do you anticipate these autonomous agents impacting the future of work? Will they replace human jobs or will they just augment the
Yeah.
human capabilities and create new opportunities for all of us?
So, okay. Will autonomous agents take away human jobs? uh, Good question. I really wish I had an autonomous agent which takes away data cleaning, uh, data warehousing, all these routine, mundane, scraping jobs. Rather, it came directly towards eating my enjoyable part of the building process, which is coding or making art. Any aspiring company won't say that, hey, now I have saved $99, I don't need the human anymore, I'll throw them away. No. Every healthy company has shitload of work to do. The number of clients that we are not able to address is a bottleneck that we have right now. The volume of business that we will be able to generate is directly restricted by the human resources that we have in hand right now, right? Therefore, now that you have you have freed up a lot of human intelligence, and you have extra cash in your bank because you have saved it through it, you will be reinvesting it in growing your business further. And to grow your business further, you will need new intelligence to be tapped in. And because these are pattern recognition systems, they won't be able to tap into new stuff very easily because these are basically parrots, stochastic parrots, right? All these LLMs. Then the human will be exposed to doing much more intelligent jobs. You'll go ahead and deal with and do much more interesting, much unique, much different things in comparison to what you did last year. And this cycle will keep continuing. You'll be saving more cash, you'll free up human time, and therefore human intelligence will be directed towards building and growing the business more and more, and this will be a virtuous cycle. You'll keep growing. That's my hypothesis, and that's what I think will happen. We won't lose jobs, rather we will find more time to do much more enjoyable, intellectually stimulating tasks.
I know you're not the right person to answer this question, but take a shot at it. Like, how can people who are listening to this podcast, or in general who are just worried about, AI taking away their jobs, what can they exactly do to prepare, for this transition?
I think the very first thing is, my wife is not a AI researcher. She has a PhD in applied physics, and so her domain is very different in comparison to AI. She doesn't know what is happening. She cannot keep track of what is happening cutting edge, right? But there are a few things that she does. The first thing is she talks to me every day and understands what is the technology that is possible. And she shows to me and asks me, hey, these are certain repetitive things that I do. Do you know any tools which will help me automate these things? And I've showed her a bunch of tools. And I think she has over $100 of subscription in all these AI tools right now. She's not a programmer. She's not a developer. She's a very smart individual in applied physics, and she leverages all these tools to make her job much better. I think the most important thing is to read a lot and subscribe to be honest, right? I think one of the most valuable things that people can do is to actually subscribe to newsletters. My co-founder subscribes to a bunch of them. Okay. And he constantly keeps reading all these new tools that are getting launched, understand them, and goes ahead, blocks his time and tries it out and sees how effective they are, and can he take the tool and use in his own. He's a non-technical co-founder. He's a business co-founder. He tries out all these tools and then sees, hey, this is good for me, this is not good for me. Schedules call with the tool builders. They're very happy to talk to you because they also want to understand what should I build to make this useful. So they do it, right? Every company invests in upskilling their employees. Speak about this to them and then tell them that, hey, can you bring in an expert who can come and give a talk on what are all these latest tools that are available and how can we adopt them? So having access to those people who will educate you on what are the tools that are available, plus trying to find content regarding the tools that come out in the market every day and installing them and trying to use them, break your head with them, doing it right, you will never become irrelevant. You will rather become extremely productive. And this way you can always stay in. The other biggest myth that I want to demystify is you don't need to be a programmer to use the generative AI tools nowadays. No. You don't need to know how to code. All you have to know is how to open a website, log in, take a free subscription, watch a tutorial on how to use it and use it. It's not hard. People have made it super friendly for you to adopt it. And the builders of these tools are always exceptionally happy to speak to you and help you get started. So fear is the only thing that you have to overcome, and there is nothing to be scared. So, yeah.
Those are extremely useful, practical, and simple guides. I'm sure a lot of people don't think about that it is so easy to learn, and we're always looking for shortcuts to just jump the gun and get somewhere. But I think these are some very simple things that we can all do in our day-to-day lives to get ahead of the curve. And I'll also do a shameless plug-in over there. So we've been writing a newsletter through our own platform, Nanobits, where we keep talking
Okay.
about, we keep talking about, what are the new things that are coming out. We always have one tool that we go and describe in detail how you can get started, what are the benefits, what are still some things as drawbacks that are there in the tool, how you can have workarounds. We talk about a lot of AI terminology also, which we're trying to explain in layman's term for people, as you said, right? Like who are non-techies. How do they even understand what has been the history, the evolution of some of these areas? So we try and explain it to them in very simple terms, talk about a lot of industry use cases. So a shameless plug-in over here. If you have not subscribed
Okay,
to our
then
newsletter, then please do.
then I have another suggestion to people who are listening to the podcast, right? If you want to know what AI tools to use, uh, text Geetika.
Yeah,
She's on LinkedIn.
yeah.
Just text her and
Sure.
ask her.
Thank you. Let's go back a little bit about to the building in the AI space, use case. Cost is an important consideration. We all understand, we've all realized building in the world of AI is not easy. And for innovators who are building AI startups, right? The cost of model training, cloud computing, data storage, they have all an impact on the development lifecycle as well as the adoption of your product. So, what are your thoughts about it, and what can we do so that we don't become like, by we, I mean people who are building in the space of AI, we don't become obsolete? Are there any
Got it.
strategies to employ to stay ahead of the curve?
Yes. Okay. So blanket truth. Most of these generative AI companies are not making money. They're burning cash. There are 4 players who are making good money. One is NVIDIA. The second category of players is the cloud providers, AWS, GCP, and Azure. The third category is OpenAI, Anthropic, or most of these AI companies are genuinely not making money. They're burning cash. And it's definitely not at all healthy to burn cash, right? So the first and the foremost thing is the server cost, the GPU cost, the data storage cost. All these costs are necessary if you're training your own models. Very sincerely speaking, a GPT 3.5 fine-tuning API will already take you towards a very, very long road in validating whether your product is actually useful or not. Most of these generative AI companies are brand new. We are all just out of the womb right now. Validating whether we are actually building something worthy enough is the most important. So before I started a startup, right, I was talking to someone who has built multiple startups and asked them, hey, can you give me any advice on how to build this? They told me, don't do 4 mistakes. The first thing is, he actually told me there are 4 mistakes which kill startups. Okay. The very first mistake is building something that no one wants. If you build something that no one wants, then you're killing yourself. So validating whether what you're building in before investing shitload of time, effort, and money into something is exceptionally important. APIs which are publicly available from these large players will already take you a very, very long way. First thing. The second thing is all the 3 cloud providers give you a generous free tier to get started with. That's a good thing. And Google Colab is a very good place to just start training models and then put them out. 2 years ago, I used to extremely use Google Colab, and nowadays there is a so utilize the free tiers that come from all these companies. Be shameless about doing that, right? So first, and the second thing is when you build something. The second reason why a startup could be killed is because building something that only one person wants, but building it as if you are a venture funded startup, which means you charge them less or whatever it is. Right? No. Go and find a bunch of clients who will either share the cost, or if you're building it for only one client, then go and expose them the cost and ask them, hey, this is how much it is going to cost to build these systems and to deploy it. Are you okay with that? And here is a prototype that I have built with OpenAI APIs, and this is how much and this is how it works. If you want a better system which is fine-tuned on your data, which performs well for your requirements, then I'm going to launch a GPU and train my own model and give it to you. And it's going to cost you $150,000 or whatever it is. Once you have a confirmation from a client that, hey, actually this is useful, I will pay you if you build this and give it to me. That's a second way by which you can de-risk yourself and make sure that the costs are met. So I will tell you with respect to cost, please generously use all the free tiers that are out there and pass on the cost to your clients, unless you have a strong validation and you're towards PMF that you know that you're going to do extremely well. So yeah, these are some of the suggestions to mitigate costs.
And on that very same topic, what I'd also like to understand is something that's happening in the Indian AI ecosystem, which is again a very prevalent question that founders are worried about. We're not seeing that kind of investments in the deep tech startups. We've been lagging behind other sectors, even in India, from the point of view of what investors are investing in the AI startups. So, from your perspective, because you're very well positioned to be able to answer this question, you've seen the western side of the world, you're staying there, you keep, transitioning between Bangalore and, US and then Europe. What are the strategies that both innovators as well as investors should employ to overcome these unique challenges so that even in India we have this thriving deep tech ecosystem that we can build?
Okay. So the first thing is, Geetika, I think Personally, I don't bucket investors based on the geography. That is something that I'm very, very careful about. The reason is because most of these investors that you see in Bangalore are spending half of their time in US, Europe, or wherever it is. They're traveling everywhere. All these investors and US investors are coming and spending time in Bangalore. These things, right? So and I don't also think it's fair to say that, hey, I can bucket people based on geography. I think I don't believe in that. That's my personal opinion. I don't know whether this personal opinion is true or false or whatever it is, right? But I believe that, hey, we should not distinguish people based on the geography that they are located in. Rather, I will tell you this thing. Hey, every instrument of investment has its own appetite, right? A VC fund behaves very differently in comparison to a PE fund. A private equity doesn't think the same way as a venture capital fund. A bank doesn't think the same way as a private equity fund or whatever. So every investor has their own appetite. So if your business plan does not, you have to find that, hey, for the kind of business that I would like to build, who is the right type of investor? First, the very first question that we should address is, should we raise investment? Is the very first question. Or can I bootstrap my way through it? So every business is not a venture fundable business, or every business is not a bootstrap. There are, hey, Swiggy, I don't believe Swiggy could be built by bootstrapping. Or I also don't believe Zerodha could be built by infusing shitload of venture capital, right? These are two different businesses. They require different appetites and they investment fund. So first you have to choose that, hey, for the problem that I would like to solve, what is the right mode of investment that I should raise? First thing. The second thing is, you have to identify, hey, what kind of business would I like to build? Would I like to build a business that grows 10x every month on month? Or would I like to build a business which grows 2x year on year? Because that's my appetite. That's what makes me happy. So after you have identified all these things, you'll be able to find the right kind of investment instrument to bet on. The first thing is, my personal suggestion would be put away a bit of your personal savings and spend your own money on building things. The first thing is mainly because it will put skin in the game for you. So you'll be extremely cautious about money. You'll be frugal. You'll be very, very careful about it. When you swipe your credit card versus when you swipe someone else's credit card, there is a different level of pain that is involved, right? So put your own skin in the game to start with. The second thing is, if you feel that you need a very small round, right? Hey, I need 100, 150K types. Then probably do angel round and not go after wasting your time doing a venture capital fund, right? Because they want, an angel will be happy with 2 to 3% of your business. Venture capital wants like 20% of your business. The appetite is different, right? So you have to find the right investor who is appropriate for your business. And similarly, the investor will also find a company that is appropriate for them and they will invest, right? I'm pretty sure a partner at a venture firm would make a very different decision while judging the same company. So let's say Hexo goes to an investor a partner at an investment firm and says that, hey, I want your VC firm to invest money. The way how he or she judges me is going to be very different from me going to the same partner asking, hey, I'm doing a small angel round. Would you be willing to write a 10K check? Then their lens of judgment is going to be different because their appetite is different. The same person makes two different decisions based on the appetite and the risk profile of the company, right? So I would say that if you feel that raising investment in a particular geography is becoming exceptionally difficult for a deep tech startup, then you're probably you're not speaking to the right person. Find the right people and speak to them. And that way you can mitigate the heartburn that you will have and understand what business you are building. And if you understand what business you are building, you won't have that issue as well. This is my personal thought, Geetika.
I agree. I heard this, advice and inputs from various other people who are building, especially in the space of AI.
Geetika,
Yeah,
can I quickly add just one more point?
sure.
I'll also tell you, right? If at all it's true that deep tech or venture funds in India are, are not investing money into deep tech companies, let's say, if at all that's true, what will happen is it's a free market. In a free market, when you don't make the right move, you'll become obsolete, you'll become irrelevant, and you'll be thrown out. If at all that perception of Indian funds are not investing into deep tech startups is actually true, then they'll become obsolete in 5 years or 10 years or whatever time period, right? And the moment when they realize that they are becoming obsolete, right? It's a feedback to them that they will feed into themselves and they will fix themselves and they will start increasing the investment that they put into the companies, right? So in a free market, that is the biggest advantage that you have. The market forces, the market dynamics will determine whether you are treated fairly or not.
Absolutely. That is so true. And I was just saying, Vignesh, like this is what I've heard from various other founders that I've been speaking to. It's not that the investments are not there, investments are not happening. You just have to find the right investors. So you're very right in saying that. I think it is important that you look all around and not just limit yourself to, people who are investing in the Indian companies. With that, we're almost approaching towards the end of the podcast, where we generally ask people, what is that advice that you would like to give entrepreneurs who are building in the space of AI? And it could be from the lessons that you have learned through your own, building process, or anything that you're seeing as upcoming trends, which you would like to give as hints or inputs to people who are looking forward to build something.
Hey, it's what is happening right now is truly a disruption. The old rules don't apply anymore at all. People used to say that, hey, don't sell shovels when there is a gold rush 1 year ago. Today, people are saying that, hey, you won't be able to afford mining the gold, so just sell shovels or whatever it is. And there is something very interesting, right? Sam Altman himself, I think he said that he regrets all the advices that he has given to Y Combinator companies because he himself did not follow most of those advices that he gave to other companies while building OpenAI. So I think what is most important right now is to use our own first principle thinking and understand what is happening around us and make our own decisions. Listening to people attentively is exceptionally important. Listening to people around us but making our own decisions and sticking on to them is even more important. I think it's very, very important as a founder to be unbiased and listen to people around them carefully and then learn to ignore irrelevant information, learn how to interpret the right information, process it within ourselves, and then make a decision using our own first principle thinking rather than getting advice from other people. The second thing is, what are the directions that I see that are happening, or what are the things that are picking up in the market right now for people to build, right? I have done this too many times to realize that running after shiny ball is not the right way to build a business. I've told you I've pivoted 9 to 11 times right now, right? Just for people who are watching this via video, I want to share my screen for a moment and
Sure.
show this. You see, these are the number of times that I've pivoted. These are detailed documentation on what did I do, when did I do, how did I do. So there is a post-mortem analysis, everything written very, very detailed. But what will be useful is, hey, if there is something that you could relate to deeply, And if you feel that hey, this hasn't been genuinely solved, you won't lose the motivation to solve it. That is one way. Or the other way is, if you have commitment from someone that, hey, I'm going to pay you $100,000 if you solve this issue. So either you should have that problem, you should have faced that problem for a long duration of time, that you are personally motivated towards it, or you have a guarantee that, hey, someone will pay me money if I solve this for them because this is such a big problem to them. That will help you to stick on to the problem statement. I'm not talking about the solution at all. So I don't believe a large volume of new problem statements have come up in the market right now until now. Yeah, of course, because of AI agents, LLMs coming into picture, new problem statements have started populating, but the 99.999% of the problems are age-old problems which have to be resolved with a new way of thinking. The way how we solve them is going to be different. Therefore, we should not look for the latest problem statement probably, or the shiny problem statement. Rather, we have to keep ourselves updated towards, hey, in terms of technology, what changes are happening that I could take it and adopt it right now and redo things which I did it in the past but very differently. Right? That is very, very important. At Hexo, one very, very lucky thing that happened to us is, after pivoting so many times, fortunately, we came across a problem statement that I have been personally been suffering since 2015, since I became a data scientist until today. Even today, that is one of the biggest bottlenecks that we have had while building our previous product. So the problem statement remained the same, but technologically there is a shift that happened that, hey, I will be able to solve this old problem in a new way, right? So I saw that one, hey, this is interesting. Why don't, there is this new way of solving this old problem that I have been personally facing since several years. So why don't I solve it? So that's the first. The second thing I did was, I reached out to, I posted it on LinkedIn. Never in the history of Hexo have we experienced this. Close to 35 people DM'd me and said me that, hey, this is very interesting. If you have a solution to the same problem, please let us know because we are suffering from the same problem. Hey, that was a validation. I'm like, okay, this is a burning problem. And very importantly, of the people who reached out to us, the 35 people who reached out to us, we had a call with all the 35 people. And one agreed to pay us a very good amount of cash to train it. They are sponsoring us the compute to train, sponsoring us the manpower to label the data, helping us with the deployment, deploy on their own cloud, and paying us for the deployment as well, and giving us help, letting us keep the IP to ourselves, plus. A lot of things happened. So we picked that client and we are sticking on to this client, and we have 3 more clients in the pipeline with whom we are also starting the POC soon, after we finish the first client that is paying us the large cash. I think this took us 2 years, right, to get here. Could I have sped it up? I genuinely don't know, because the technological change just happened right now. And I think one thing I have learned in the last 2 years is the outcome of success is all about understanding how compound effect works. All about how compound effect works. So there is this book called Principles of Compound Effect or something like that. It should be lying somewhere here. I'll try to find it. Read that book. I think that is the biggest mistake I made all my life. I never understood the value of compound effect. Yeah, it's here. It's this one, The Compound Effect by Darren Hardy, right? It's this book. I keep it in my table. I read it very often. So that's first thing. The second thing is, if you haven't watched it yet, please go to YouTube and look for Graham Weaver, How to Lead an Asymmetric Life. It's a YouTube talk Um, um, it's a it's a talk that was given in Stanford Business School. It's a 33-minute talk or 35-minute talk. I'm not lying. I would have genuinely listened to it 100 times. It's about how to lead an asymmetric life. It changed my life for good. It helped me understand what are the principles with which I have to lead my professional life. And compound effect, understanding how compound effect works is exceptionally important for a founder. I learned that this game is not for 1 or 2 years or 5 or 10 years. It's a long game, maybe like 40, 50 years. I'm happy that I have a co-founder with whom I would like to travel that long. We both have that mentality that, hey, we would like to travel that long together. We don't want to just make a splashing PR, raise $100 million, build something, then exit the business. No, we want to build a long, sustaining business for a long time. I genuinely hope everyone gets this joy of fulfillment as well in their life. Yes, Geetika.
Wow. I'm just like, I am in a very different state right now. I'm just like having so many thoughts. I don't know where to start and say thank you for sharing so many insights, giving such interesting, insights from what you experienced yourself also, drawing parallels from life, putting in philosophy, adding through your own journey. It has been amazing. Just want to say a very big thank you to you for coming and talking to a lot of people who want to just listen what's happening in the AI world, what it takes to build a company. I'm super excited to see what the future holds for not just AI agents, I think in general about everything that is happening as a technological shift where things are going to only get better. And visionaries like you who are running companies, whether it's Hexo or whatever you build next, and how it is going to change the entire landscape. So again, like it's been an extremely insightful conversation. I have learned so much through it, and I'm sure a lot of people who've been wanting to either get answers to a lot of questions or just to hear from people who are building in this space would find it extremely meaningful. So, Vignesh, thank you once again for coming to our show and sharing all these valuable insights. Thank you.
Thanks, Geetika. Thank you very much for having me here. I thoroughly enjoyed it. Uh, I just have to say one thing. I'm not a visionary. I'm a very ordinary founder who has been
You're just being
failing every day.
humble.
No, who has been failing probably every day. So I'm no visionary. Um, I just have the advantage of standing at a small cliff and seeing things a little bit farther in comparison to most other people. I'm extremely fortunate towards it, and this there are only two people who helped me to get to this position in my life, right? Of course, my parents, uh, no doubt about it. Other than them, the two other people are my wife and my co-founder. Uh, I have pride in saying that I have the best wife and the best co-founder. They tolerate me a lot, and they helped me live through this journey of 2 years in trying to see not making money for the last 2 years and going ahead and doing all these things has been exceptionally difficult. My wife as well as my co-founder had to make too many compromises to make this work, but I hope other founders also blessed enough to
Yeah. No, I
get
think
this done.
partners play a very important role, whether it's in business or in life. They completely make your experience enjoyable, or it could be extremely disappointing. So I'm glad that you found the right partners in both sides of the world. So very happy for you, and continue to do all the good things that you are doing, and continue to inspire a lot of people. We look forward to your journey on what are the other cool things that you will build and release it for a lot of companies, for a lot of users. So good luck for that, and thank you once again for coming on this show, Vignesh.
Thanks, Geetika. I would like to end by saying one thing which I learned. Most of the startups fail not because they are building the wrong product or because they're building the wrong technology. No, it predominantly fails because of the co-founder fighting. I don't know how many people know this, but co-founder fighting with each other and co-founder breakup is the biggest reason why a startup fails, right? That is something that I'll tell all the founders that please address it at the earliest. I always joke with my co-founders saying that, hey, even tomorrow, if we pivot to selling vada pavs, let's both do it together. Yeah, and I'm pretty sure we'll happily sell vada pavs.
Very nice.
Thanks, Geetika. Bye.
Cool. Okay. Thank you.